Hi everyone, and welcome to Our Ventura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. Our guest today is Denise Sanders. She is the Communication and Development Officer for National Disaster Search Dog Foundation. Welcome to the show, Denise. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
I'd like to hear more about this incredible organization and share with our viewers some of the information about it. It's located right here in our own backyard in Santa Paula.
We are. We actually started out in Ojai quite some time ago, about 21 years ago, and now we have our National Training Center in Santa Paula. So we are literally right here in your backyard.
This organization was founded in 1996, and I want you to tell us more about the woman who founded it and some of her aspirations in making the organization what it is today.
Absolutely. So our founder, Wilma Melville, was a local woman. She lived in Ojai for many, many years and is a retired PE teacher. So she understood the basics of teaching and training and things like that. But she also, when she retired, wasn't done yet. She had her third act, if you would call it that, and she became a search and rescue canine handler herself, first in wilderness, then in urban search and rescue. And she deployed with her dog Murphy to the Oklahoma City bombing in April of 1995, just about 23 years ago now. So she went over there, and when she came back, she was really reflecting on things and realized what a shortage there are of search dogs, and in particular, well-trained, certified, federal or FEMA certified search dogs. And so she decided to change that. Now, if anyone gets a chance to meet Wilma, you will note her dogged determination right away. She is very much like the search dogs we train. And she really came back and said, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to make this happen. And she has for the last, as I said, 21, almost 22 years now. She's made it happen. And, you know, she had her vision of the National Training Center, and now it's a reality. So we're making it work.
Now, your organization here in Santa Paula is quite a large facility. And how many dogs do you train at one time?
Right now we currently have 18 search dogs in training at our kennel at the National Training Center. It's 125 acres, so we have quite a bit of room. We have a canine pavilion, which is where the dogs are housed, and for many of them, since they're former shelter dogs, this is the first home they've ever known, and it's quite beautiful, and they love it up there. They get to be at Doggy Disneyland all day long and train all day long, which they absolutely love to do.
I think one of the most important things that I saw about your organization is you are completely on your own for funding and getting all the money that you need to run this organization on your own. There is no government money, no taxpayer cost. You guys do it all on your own.
That is correct. So we don't accept any government funding at all. We do work with the government as far as certifications, and our teams are part of FEMA task forces or state task forces throughout the country. But we don't accept any funding, which allows us to decide where it needs to go and decide where our program needs to go from there. It's all individuals and organizations privately funding what we do and believe in our mission of strengthening disaster response. It's incredible.
Now, I know these dogs are certainly trained and trained for months at a time. This takes a lot of time, money, energy. It's about $20,000 or more to train just one dog. Is that right?
That is correct. So from the moment that we find a dog in a shelter, we pull that dog, we have to do medical, we have to make sure that they're physically able to do the job, as well as they mentally want to do the job.
Absolutely.
We would never force a dog to do this. They absolutely love every moment of it. And so from that moment on until they're partnered with a handler, it can take anywhere from about 8 to 12 months of intensive training, living. Obviously, we need to feed them, we need to care for them during that time. So it is quite a bit. But then we hand that leash over to a firefighter handler. Majority of our handlers are firefighters. And we hand it over to them in their department free of charge. So the fire departments are not paying anything, taxpayers are not paying anything for these incredible resources that are now available to them. And it does take quite a bit to get to that point. Then beyond that, we are one of the only organizations in the country that provides ongoing training and medical support for the remainder of the dog's lives. So that handler will never have to choose between paying his mortgage and paying for his dog's medical. And we want to make sure that they have that they know that we are always there for them, because we are one huge family across the country, from everyone who supports us to the handlers and dogs themselves.
As you mentioned, the search dogs are paired with firefighters, and that is an important thing to mention because in a national disaster that you've seen so much of throughout the country. no technology can match a dog's nose.
That's
This
correct.
is really an important point. So
Yeah.
it's really an incredible thing that they can go out there with these firefighters and they can uncover things that nobody else can.
That's correct. The dog's nose knows. We
Right.
joke about that, but it really is true when you're looking
Right.
at, even during a certification, a 10,000 square foot rubble
Sure.
pile, which is hard for any of us to even imagine. If we were out there, you and I, turning over rocks hand by hand
Right.
and trying to get through that, it would take us probably weeks,
Right.
if not months, to do. A dog will cover that in 30 seconds or less
That's
and tell us
incredible.
if there's anyone left there alive. And a lot of what we do, yes, we're obviously wanting to find survivors if there are any
Sure.
there. We hope there aren't any, there is no one left there.
Right.
But it allows the rescuers to do their job more efficiently and move on should there be no survivors in that particular area, which as firefighters, they understand that. They've taken classes, they've trained on it, they deal with
Sure.
it day in and day out. And that partnership is really incredible to watch.
Now, SDF has a commitment, a lifetime commitment for all these dogs that come through the training organization. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what happens in the training process and the commitment for the entire span of their life?
Yes, so when we say we pull dogs from shelters, our first #1 commitment to them is once rescued, they will never have to be rescued again.
Okay.
So no matter what, whether the dog becomes a search dog successfully and completes our training program and goes on to serve and eventually retire, as I mentioned, their medical is completely covered. We take care of the dog and handler and department all the way through. But even if a dog doesn't make it through training, maybe they don't quite like the footing on the rubble pile, or they just don't enjoy it as much as they need to do this job.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, we don't force them to do it. So
Right.
we'll either find a career change option for them that still allows them to work and have fun, because this is all fun for them, or if they aren't quite a working
Sure.
dog, they can go to a loving home, which we call our lifetime care program.
Yeah.
So either way, whether they become a search dog or not, they have a home and they will never ever go back to the shelter system again.
Are there certain breeds that tend to do this better than others?
Yes. So generally speaking,
Okay.
labs we see a lot of.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if that's entirely because there are more of them out there that are more geared towards this work.
Okay.
But labs, golden retrievers, border collies, German shepherds, and Malinois, the working breeds, the herding breeds, that is the type of dog that tends to do very, very well in this.
That's great to hear. I think some of our viewers would really enjoy hearing more about some of the deployments that these dogs have been a part of and some of the things that they've done over the years that have really made a difference and saved so many lives.
Yes. So as I mentioned, Oklahoma City was kind of the beginning of it all.
Okay.
That was before we truly existed, but that was when we were born. 9/11, we had 13 teams actually that responded to Ground Zero in 2001. That was a pivotal point for the Search Dog Foundation as an organization, because not only did it highlight the dire need for these dogs and these teams to cover
Right.
such a large area, it also was national awareness became something for us where people started hearing about these dogs and their specialty and why they were needed.
Okay.
So from there, Hurricane Katrina, now they've deployed internationally to the earthquakes in Haiti, Japan, Nepal, even Mexico City most recently, they deployed down there as well. So it's not just within our own country, they're also going outside of there to help those that are in need after disasters like that.
And we should mention that they've also been deployed here locally in the Montecito mudslides that happened recently. And they made a big impact there as well.
Yes, we actually had 18 of our active search teams there on the ground within hours. 2 of our teams were actually pre-staged, so they were there before it even happened and were searching immediately for survivors after that tragedy. And they deploy also to local, car wrecks and things like that as well. They're always ready to go should it be a disaster type scenario like that. But Montecito was certainly one that we had a lot of teams serving.
Good. That's great to hear. How do you prepare for the next disaster? How do these dogs get ready, and how do you as an organization prepare?
Well, we try and teach them as much as we can beforehand and prepare as best we can. You never know what you're going to face when you step off that bus or the plane or get out of your truck. But we try to take lessons learned from previous deployments. So for instance, the Montecito mudslides, there was a lot to be learned from that. And so we'll ask our handlers, what did you learn? How would you make your training better to prepare for the next one? And we pass that information along to the next generation of handlers, because we're always looking ahead. We know it's not a matter of if, but when the next disaster happens, unfortunately. And it's our job to be ready when it does. So the National Training Center allows us to mimic those disasters so that before they ever set foot at the scene of a real one, they're ready, or at least they feel like they've come up against something like this before. It's not brand new.
Okay. which brings me to talking about volunteers. I'm sure your organization relies heavily on many volunteers. So we'd like to hear how people can become involved as a volunteer or be a part of the organization.
Well, our website is our absolute best resource to reach whomever you need at the Search Dog Foundation.
Okay.
So at searchdogfoundation.org, we have an entire section dedicated to our agency angels, which are our volunteers.
Okay.
And while they may not necessarily be interacting with the dogs on a daily basis,
Right.
they are certainly immensely helpful in getting the word out there, in helping us put events together and things like that. Our staff is very lean and efficient, but we can only do so much. And so it really does take an army of volunteers and part of our SDF family to make that happen.
With these dogs that are ready to go at any time, I mean, these dogs are just ready to get out there and do their job wholeheartedly. It takes a great deal of funding because, as I mentioned previously, there is no government funding, no taxpayer cost. How do you get the funding that you need to keep the organization going in such a great way?
Well, it's everyday folks that really feel moved by not only our mission of strengthening disaster response, but the concept of going from rescued to rescuer. These dogs truly are rescued from shelters and then go on to rescue and save lives of others. And that is a very, very powerful thing. And because of the folks that really believe in us, we're able to continue doing it. We certainly could not do the work we do without everyone else supporting us.
I noticed that on your website you also have different entities where people can contribute, also organizations and even different corporations can be a part of your organization. How would that work for them?
A lot of corporations and some of the larger organizations you mentioned have matching programs where an employee can donate and the company will actually match it. I know there's the combined federal campaign, so if someone is a government worker, there's that. You can choose to send that to us as well. There are a lot of different programs, a lot of which are on our website. And then you can always just make a monthly donation, which is a consistent way to make sure that we can keep doing what we do.
Now, you have a pretty large staff that helps organize everything. What are some of the other things that people do besides the training of the dogs to keep the organization going?
Well, we're always out there trying to spread the word. It's surprising sometimes to us that folks haven't heard of us necessarily, and not just our organization, but the work the dogs do, the specialty that they are in. And so, yeah, a lot of it is barking proud, as we call it, and just spreading the word. But like I said, it's not just about training the dogs. It's really about sharing the work that they do and how important it is, because when the time comes, at the end of the day, we're training them to search for our own families to that standard. Would I want them out there searching for my loved ones? And absolutely I would, every time.
So currently you have how many dogs?
In training right now we have 18. Out and about we have 69 across the country that are currently active.
And what is the time span for the training?
Training is about 8 to 12 months or so. It really depends on the dog's learning curve. It depends on the dog, just like with us humans. You know, it's not always a set thing, but we really work with each dog and try and figure out how they learn best and make sure that they are truly prepared before we hand that leash.
So after that amount of time of the training at your facility in Santa Paula, then they're ready to go out and actually do the work that they do.
They're partnered with their handler at that point, and then they usually work for almost a year or so for certification, and at that point is when they're allowed to then deploy with their task force, whether it be state or federal.
So I like this line, with their noses in everyone's heart, we can keep this organization going, and these dogs can keep doing the job that they're doing. And
absolutely.
You guys can help them along too.
Yes, everyone is able to help in one way or another.
That's
and
great.
They can follow us on social media and our website and see how their dogs are doing. And it's a wonderful thing. It truly is a family.
Great.
It is.
And give us the website one more time.
Searchdogfoundation.org. And you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Terrific. So, Thank you, Denise Sanders from the National Disaster Search Dog Foundation, right here in Santa Paula. Great to find. And I wish you all the best for the future with all the great things that you're doing out there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank all of you for joining us today on Our Ventura TV. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.